podcast show for business owners and managers who are passionate about developing people and growing a successful business. And now here's your host, Alistair Booth from the HR Booth.
Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for tuning in to this latest episode of our podcast. So a slightly different approach this week. What we've got on the go this week is to recognise International Women's Day, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sam Kidd, one of our HR consultants at the HR Booth. So welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
So thanks for taking the time to kind of chat through your experience with me today. Really informal, so you've already been through an interview process with us, which is quite in-depth, so we're not going to do anything like that today. But what would be quite good for the listeners and the viewers, Sam, is just to maybe tell us a wee bit about yourself, a bit about your background, about your experience and what you're kind of doing at the HR Booth.
Yeah, of course. So as you said, Alistair, I'm just started in the role in January with HR Booth. Previous to that, so I actually started my career in HR. Always tell the story of when I went for my interview. It was for an apprenticeship interview. I didn't know what HR stood for. I realised that in the car outside the interview and thought, I better Google that. So yeah, I went in kind of blind. It was a sort of just, found out about random apprenticeships in the area and things like that. So I started through an apprenticeship with a logistics company, and they were really, really good, really supportive, sort of gave me the opportunity to do anything admin related, sort of fell into the world of HR just because that was who sort of interviewed me, was the HR manager and things like that. So I did my apprenticeship in about 6 months, and then was promoted to an administrator and did my graduate apprenticeship, which was offered at the time through UWS as a kind of opportunity for anyone in employment to do a degree. It's kind of following the same path, a 4-year degree where you get your sort of master's at the end of it. So I only graduated last year, got my business management degree last year. Thank God that's over. A lot, but yeah, it was really, really good. And through that time, I ended up kind of moving about a bit. So I got promoted to advisor, still with the logistics company. Sort of decided, I wanted to get a bit of different experience, moved on to working for a journalism company. So I was working in a HR shared service with them. Bit of a different sort of experience, focusing just on the sort of ER issues. Again, ended up taking a bit of a step sideways, going back to logistics, and then, as I say, started with the HR Booth in January.
Brilliant, fantastic, and congratulations on the degree. So that's great that you've achieved that, and that's quite good as well, actually, because I know we're obviously here today, I suppose, talking about International Women's Day, but in actual fact, this week's actually Scottish Apprenticeship Week, and for you to have started your career as an apprentice as well, that's quite encouraging for a lot of the kind of listeners and viewers as well. And obviously, we do quite a bit to kind of promote apprenticeships. So that's actually really encouraging as well. So good to hear a wee bit about your journey and your path. So how have you found the first few weeks at the HR Booth then? I know that it's been pretty full on and you've settled in really well, but what's your kind of perception on that?
Yeah, definitely. It was busy to begin with, still busy, but it's all really good. I feel like that sort of first week where I was through the HR Booth office, majority of the time, that was really good to sort of understand how the team works and what your sort of expectations are and things like that, and just seeing how open the environment was and how everybody just interacts all together. So that was really good. And then obviously getting stuck into the sort of client work, and I think my first day on site here was payroll. So nothing like getting stuck in.
Thrown into the deep end, the best way to learn.
Totally, exactly. But no, it's been brilliant. It's been really, really busy, but all good things, nothing negative happening. It's all been really good things, all positive. And yeah, obviously working as a consultant is a new thing for me. So yeah, still just kind of getting used to that way of working, but just an adaptation.
The feedback's really positive, and a testament to yourself. It's like you've been here for a lot longer than just the first couple of months that you've been here already. So you've slotted in very well, very quickly with our client and obviously with the wider team, which is great. So well done you.
It's good to hear.
Good. So I'm going to just get kind of fired into a few questions here, Sam. So as I said, nothing kind of too formal, but
Yeah.
what I'm quite keen to do during this podcast is just to kind of find out a little bit about, your kind of experiences, any challenges that you've maybe faced, and any kind of barriers that you've maybe kind of come across during your kind of career so far. So first question on that really is, I don't know if there are any instances where you've kind of felt maybe that your gender impacted on your professional opportunities or has impacted on your opportunity to progress your career at all.
So I wouldn't say that there has been anything specific in terms of, an actual gender boundary that
Yeah,
I've
good.
noticed anyway. I feel like I've been really lucky in the opportunities that I've had, and from starting as an apprentice and quite quickly, I think I was an advisor after about 2 years, so it
Great.
felt really quick. But I was in
Mhm.
a really supportive environment at that time. I had a
Mhm.
lot of really supportive mentors and managers
Good.
surrounding me, so I felt really lucky to have that, and still feel lucky that
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have ever came across a sort of boundary that you could sort of say, right, okay, well, maybe there has been sort of some kind of
Yeah.
gender bias or anything like that in there. So yeah, I feel like
Good.
I'm lucky to be where I'm at,
Yeah.
and there hasn't been a huge amount as to sort of barriers to get me here.
Brilliant. That's good. That's encouraging to hear, and hopefully that is a kind of sign that the times have kind of changed and kind of moved on. But I guess unfortunately, a lot of women still do face a lot of kind of barriers and things like that. So it's encouraging from your perspective that's not been the case. So that's really good to hear.
Definitely, yeah. I feel like I've probably witnessed it from other people. I've
Right.
been in scenarios where you sort of hear, oh, well,
Yeah.
if the example that comes to mind is, if someone's doing an interview for a job and, the HR are there supporting, and
Yeah.
they, maybe want to ask the question of, does the person have children? Does the person
Uh-huh.
plan on having children? Things
Yeah.
like that you just, you
Yeah.
hear it and you sort of think, we as HR professionals just,
Yeah.
we don't think like that at all.
Yeah.
We don't. It quite shocks you when people are still thinking like that. So there
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
a few examples of that over the years, but yeah, nothing
Mhm.
personally.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's encouraging as well. So I suppose that is part of our role as HR professionals to kind of educate and keep managers and such like kind of right with that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's just not
totally.
appropriate. So that's good that you've been able to kind of do that. So so I know you've not obviously encountered any barriers to like promotion or career advancement, but is that something you've maybe witnessed elsewhere, or any friends or family that's maybe encountered that type of kind of bias at all?
I would say, I've got a friend who is a teacher, and there's just been a few sort of occasions that I've heard where in the sort of school environment where
Mhm.
it might be a pupil saying something inappropriate, and then the sort of surrounding adults
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah.
not defending, or maybe not sticking up for
Yeah.
and sort of correcting it, and or even if it is a sort of scenario where it's another professional, another teacher
Yeah.
in the scenario, and they're just sort of letting it slide.
Mhm.
There's just it's mainly just around like sort of comments and things like that. Again, I'm lucky, and clearly all my friends and family are lucky to
Yeah.
have never properly came up against, or
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, have come up against it. But yeah, there's definitely been occasions where I've sort of said, okay, well, what did someone do about that? And
Yeah.
it's just something totally inappropriate, totally not
Mhm.
right, for anyone to be saying. And just hearing that, there maybe isn't that, as someone's senior manager, there
Yeah.
isn't that support there isn't that, well, okay, that's wrong, we're going to do something
Mhm.
to correct that.
Yeah.
So I think there definitely is still a lot to be done, a lot to be improved upon.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, good stuff. And in terms of like any job opportunities or job roles that you've kind of applied for or been considered for, have you felt your gender's influenced that in any way, or any roles that you've maybe not applied for because of that, or is
I
that something
wouldn't say
you've
so, to be
encountered?
honest.
No.
I've had an experience before where, when I thought about this, I thought, would that have been the same situation if it was a man? So I was offered
Yeah.
offered a role I had done a Teams interview. I was offered a role with the company, and then when I went to actually, go for a sort of face-to-face, I'd been offered the role, but it was a face-to-face sort of meet the team situation. I was asked to take my nose ring out, take my, take any kind of brightly coloured jewellery off. It wasn't a case of like it was a sort of food industry where that's, a requirement, but it was more, take your nose ring out, but more a presentable thing. And I thought, as if there was anything where, if it was a man and he, had something similar, would that have been picked up on as much? It's hard, it's not a direct sort of thing. It was just something that I thought, it's just one of those things that you start to think about and think, would that have been called out?
Yeah, absolutely. Good example, actually. So I suppose just on that as well then, Sam, has there ever been a time where you've kind of feel that you've maybe had to prove yourself a little bit more than a male counterpart as a result of something like that as well?
Yeah, there's probably been quite a lot of that in terms of, so in one of the roles I was in previously, it was a new role. It was an advisor role within a company, and it was a new position. They'd had a sort of HR manager. He had been there for a while, and I came in this new role. So just kind of fake it till I make it, get the confidence going, just sort of in a new environment. I hadn't had an HR manager who's a man before that time. Hadn't worked with a male HR professional at all before that time. And unfortunately, I think in that specific environment, a lot of people didn't really listen to my advice. As sort of it was as if that got pushed to one side. But then, if the same thing was reiterated by the HR manager, that was fine, and they sort of took it on board. There was a few examples of that where I would sort of call out and say, okay, well, I had said that. Why didn't you think that was the case when I had said that? And it could always be put down to the seniority aspect, but you do always just think, I've got to sort of be assertive in myself, and then you get in these examples of maybe just feeling like, okay, well, I'm not being trusted as much maybe as someone else. And I think from when I started within the sort of logistics industry, as I was 17 when I started, and was probably a bit shy and things like that. And I just felt like there was quite a lot of, the wee lassie in HR, a lot of that where maybe wasn't listened to, my advice maybe wasn't taken on board. I had to get someone else, if I'm asking someone to do something, it would take their line manager, who, in a logistics environment is all very male dominated environment. So that would be the sort of, it wouldn't happen until someone else stepped in.
Yeah, I've seen that as well, and I suppose, HR is an industry, I suppose, where it is heavily dominated by women. And I have seen, though, in kind of male-dominated kind of workplaces where if there is a kind of male HR person, they tend to want to go there first, or if they don't get the answer they wanted from the female HR person, they go to the man. I've seen that as well. Maybe not so much in recent years, but I have kind of observed that over my career as well. So I can totally relate to what you've said there. And ultimately, I've always ended up giving the same advice as
that's
what my female counterpart would have said. And it's kind of like, well, why do you need to come to me? That this person's got just as much, if not more, experience than I have. So.
Exactly. So, I think it's just like acknowledging, and sort of, people maybe don't notice that they're doing it, and they, in their head they might be just doing it as a sort of seniority thing, if it is a case of an advisor and a manager or someone there who's been there longer. But I think it is just really important to sort of call out, even if it is someone doing it unconsciously.
Exactly, yeah. And do you think as a result of that, you've maybe then, because obviously you've got your degree and you've worked hard to get other qualifications, is that kind of forced you a little bit to maybe work harder to get some of that to enhance the advice that you give, or is it just something you wanted to do anyway?
Yeah, probably. I would say there's probably been a good few instances where I've felt, okay, I need to sort of work harder. Maybe, I'm remembering an example from years ago where I was asked to sort of present something, and it was with, everyone else that was going to present and was maybe like a line manager, or someone who had been in the business for years and years. And I thought, okay, I'm going to need to do way more than anyone else. So I was sort of going around and saying, okay, what are you doing for it? What are you doing for it? What are you doing for it? And coming back to myself and saying, right, okay, I need to go above and beyond. And that wasn't a case, I'd been with that company for a while myself, but it was just that sort of in the back of my head, knowing, okay, I'm in a room full of really experienced people, again, predominantly men. I need to really, really prove myself, not just show that I can do the job, show that I can do the job, and then some.
Okay. And over time then, have you observed like any changes in terms of how gender issues are addressed within businesses? Is that, would you say that has got better over time?
It's hard to say if it's getting better. I would say it's definitely, there is definitely changes. And the main thing that sort of comes to mind is, when you're having a conversation with someone and they sort of will make a passing comment of, oh yeah, well, the guy's coming to do that, and then they'll say, or girl, the guy or girl.
Yeah.
You sort of think, are they just, that it's not coming naturally to them, and they don't probably really mean it in that way, but it's that, the defense, instead of just saying the guy or the woman, just sort of adding that in. I think that there is quite a lot of, the sort of people who like to refer to everybody as a snowflake generation for calling out these things, where they feel like they're being dragged through it. It's either change or get bogged down by the snowflakes. So I do think that, but again, that on the other hand, there is, I know, loads of people who are really, who will acknowledge, oh, well, I used to have this mindset and that's totally wrong, and I'm changing that, and I'm working on it, and just a load of people who really do care, and understand that it's not just about, calling out when someone says something wrong. It's just about adopting the way we speak and correcting ourselves without making a big deal of it.
No, that's a good point. Is your name kind of caused any of that before people then just make an assumption that you're I was going to just when you were talking there, I thought, has it and how have you handled that? Or I know obviously the reaction from people as well when they've then maybe met you, or made an assumption then that they shouldn't have.
I can't think of anything work-wise, but one of my close friends, her boyfriend, he works away offshore, and he, every time she says, oh, I'm meeting up with Sam, he's like, who's Sam? Sort of straight on the defense. But I think it's probably one where, if I'm emailing someone and the tone of their email, if I maybe think, oh, that's not really, this person's got a bit of a strange tone, and then as soon as I talk to them on the phone, they sort of go, oh, Sam, hi, and you can sort of see it click.
Dropped a little bit,
exactly. So whether that is just, the way people speak over email to the way people speak on the phone, but sometimes as you say, you can hear the penny drop.
Interesting. You mentioned earlier in the conversation, Sam, about having kind of good mentors and things like that. Is there any kind of good examples around mentorship that you think has played a role in your career? And then maybe the second point of that question is there any particular role models or people you kind of look up to that have helped influence some of the decisions you've made in your career and how you go about your kind of work life?
Yeah, definitely. So as I say, when I started my apprenticeship, I worked closely with the HR advisor for the company, who then she became the HR manager. So that was what, eight or so years ago, and I'm still really close to her to this day. I haven't worked with her for a number of years now, but I would definitely say she was having someone there who was not hugely experienced in the world of HR. She was brilliant at her job, but she was kind of new to the world of HR as well, but just so confident in herself, assertive, would call out anything. So going back to the sort of the environment that we worked in, where as I said earlier, the wee lassie in HR, or somebody coming in and using pet names and things like that, she'd always say, don't call me that, don't call Sam that, never make a big deal of it, just sort of always very much matter of fact, like that's not right, that's, you know, it's a bit degrading. And I would just sit there like, wow. I've never, you know, I've just always sort of, whether it made me uncomfortable or not, I've just always let it pass and moved on, you know, from my first job working in a shop, which again, it was a man's clothing shop, so was absolutely used to it, and just, you know, I totally switched off to it eventually. And then when I started hearing her calling it out, I thought, right, okay, you know, that's what I need to do. So since then, you know, that was a number of years ago now, and every time I sort of catch myself correcting someone or you know, just calling out when someone's you know, comments or behaviors are maybe that bit inappropriate, I can just always hear her voice in my head. And it's still, you know, it's definitely she is hugely influenced my confidence and you know, just my knowledge as well, you know, from an HR perspective, but definitely in my confidence in myself 100%.
Good stuff. And is that then, you know, is that one of the strategies that you've kind of found effective then for maybe like advocating for yourself and other women in business and in your field of work, that you can kind of speak up and looking at, you know, how to call certain things out?
Yeah, exactly. It's knowing how to have that, whether it is just a comment or have that conversation. You know, it's not making a big deal of it. If someone then, you know, wants to maybe argue back with you, it's saying, right, okay, stop this conversation. We'll have a one-to-one conversation, and I'll explain to you why, you know, this isn't the right way to speak to someone or act around someone, whatever it may be. But yeah, definitely, you know, even my friends will always say when we are out, if a man does anything inappropriate, I'm always the first one to be there and call it out. Or anyone does anything inappropriate, you know, if I'm always the first one to be there and call it out. And yeah, I think it is just from being that, you know, young woman myself and accepting the pet names, accepting, you know, maybe being spoke down to or overlooked. And I will make sure that if I see anybody that was in my position, I'll, you know, do what I can to help them. Not speaking for them, but just saying, you know, okay, well, maybe consider how you're making that person feel. So yeah, 100%.
Good, brilliant. That's good to hear. And kind of couple of final questions from me, Sam. So next one is just around what advice would you give to women either entering your profession or entering the workplace? You know, and just to kind of look at the maybe overcoming some of the challenges that you faced in your career, or you've seen other people kind of face. You know, is there any particular advice that you would give to women in that respect?
I think it is just, you know, it's hard to have the confidence, but you know, sometimes I've quite often found myself feeling maybe a wee bit imposter syndrome sneaking in, and you just sort of, if you tell yourself that you're confident, you feel more confident. If you think of, you know, if you can have, if you're lucky enough to have sort of mentors or you know, influential people in your life, just think about how would they respond in that situation, and it sort of filters through, and you'll develop your own way of sort of managing these situations. But I always just, you know, always remember to keep calm in scenarios, and you know, just, you know, having that sort of confidence to stand up for yourself and standing up for others. I sometimes find it easier to stand up for others than defend myself. You know, it is easier if, again, going back to the sort of, if someone calls you a pet name and, you know, you think, oh, can't be bothered getting into it, you just let it slide. But if I saw it happening to someone else, I'm much more likely to call it out. So it's probably, you know, and then for anyone, you know, starting out in HR, I would say it's you come across a lot of difficult conversations and a lot of difficult scenarios. It is just, you know, putting yourself in other people's shoes a lot of the time and thinking, okay, what is like the literal human way of approaching this scenario, and then, you know, everything else that comes into it, all your different experiences and knowledge that comes into it. But that's the sort of way that I like to start how I'm going to approach something, and then just come back to that and make sure that, you know, that I'm doing something the right way, just by the sort of, as I say, like the human approach to it.
Brilliant. Good, fantastic, good insight there, Sam. That's kind of all my questions, other than just a final one, which is just around, I don't know if you got any final comments to make in relation to anything we've spoke about today, or anything else.
I think, to to be honest, I'm just like, when I think back to being that sort of 17-year-old coming into a working environment, and again, when I was working in retail and things like that, just always been in sort of male dominated environments. It is just having, creating that confidence in your head, just totally acting it out until it becomes real. And the more you pretend that you're confident, the more confident you become, because you get those experiences. And I think it's just, knowing that calling someone out for doing something wrong or saying something wrong, they're not going to take offense. They're either going to be defensive and then go, all right, okay, actually I was wrong, which they always do, or they'll just accept it right away and appreciate being educated on what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, good stuff. No, really good advice there, Sam. So that's all my questions. Thanks for taking the time to kind of share your insights with me, Sam. I've really enjoyed our kind of conversation today. Hopefully our listeners and viewers No, you're very welcome. Should definitely do this again. And I'm sure the listeners and viewers will have gained some valuable insights into your experience. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks again, Sam, for your time today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.